section 1, where it says that the watermark must allow for easy detection.
Okay, and here's the thing. Just because it allows for easy detection does not mean companies are going to conform with actually connecting their watermarks and detection
Representative,
systems.
you gave us statistics about...
Ms. Schrock.
Okay, Representative. In Section 3, it states that the FTC will be responsible for determining the specific form the watermarks take, and that the standards that AI contributions must follow. With that, how does your first point stand about interoperability?
Because even if we say, yeah, these watermarks have to be placed and there's going to be regulations put onto them, this legislation doesn't specifically specify that these companies are going to have to
the authority to administer those regulations, does it not, Representative?
Yeah, but as of right now, the technology isn't up to the part where they can detect other AI watermarks
It's
and
our
other
responsibility
companies.
to determine the watermarks these companies.
Yeah, but the technology is up to
Free
date.
speech. We don't have interoperability because there's too many watermarking techniques, correct?
No, I would say interoperability comes with the fact that it's not fully developed technology.
And there's Google doesn't work with Metas, right? So we have too many, right?
Again, it's because technically the technology isn't developed to the point where it's universal, yes.
Okay, under Section 3, don't we create a single standard across the industry?
No, I would still argue that under this legislation, interoperability would still continue, primarily because it's still making its description, but also because I don't believe the standards are.
Questioning block has elapsed. You may have a seat.
I think the chair.
Affirmative speakers, please rise. Martin.
I think the chair.
Hello, my name is Representative Martin. This is my first time speaking today, first time in this legislative session. I'll be giving this on very soon as possible. Information of this bill. Thank you. The most dangerous thing to any democracy on any part of the planet is misinformation. Without knowing right from wrong, our constituents have no ability to select who they want their leaders to be. That's why we affirm, for two key reasons. First, this bill opens the door to future legislation. And second, it saves American lives. Which brings us to our first contention. It enables further action to be taken. My fellow affirmation speakers have already stated that current legislation around AI is not consistent. And as the National Conference of State Legislators in September of 2024 tells us, that the AI federal policy falls far behind development. So states have taken upon themselves in order to legislate for themselves. There is no federal cohesion as to what a watermark or AI policy in general would look like. In fact, the House of Representatives in November of 2024 denied further legislation that AI would be regulated. They shot it down, introduced, went to committee, and was immediately referred, according to Reuters on February 1st. That means things get bad. Because when federal policy and state policy do not align, when they disagree, and when they are not consistent, without proper regulation and enforcement, innovation is stifled. Laws vary and are obscure, and funding is sparse. Meaning AI innovation and innovation in every other sector goes down. But it's more than dollars. It's about lives. Which brings us to our second contention. This bill sows greater American unity. According to Brookings on November 23rd, when AI is used and disinformation is present, it weakens U.S. trust in elections and civil engagement. And that is why the University of Sussex found in June of 2024 that when political engagement declines, violence increases. And that's not a hypothetical, we see it in our day-to-day lives. According to the Harvard Institute of Politics, less than a third of Americans showed up at the polls in this recent election, and fewer than that are even politically engaged. That's why, just across that campus, Harvard's Ask Center for Domestic Violence in August of 2024 found that Americans are more at risk now for violence than they have been since the Civil War. Representative Young, I do not care if a single piece of AI watermark informs my constituents, if it means that American lives are saved, if it means that the American people can rest easier at night. Representatives, this bill is not about code. It's not about machines or AI. It's about the American people. Pass. Save my constituents' lives and stop this violence.
Speech time 303. Speech time 303. Questioners, please. Young.
So you said misinformation is signaling for violence, right?
Absolutely.
So what if these watermarks spread misinformation? Wouldn't that just increase the
In the
violence?
status quo, we see that misinformation due to a non-congruence in policy. As I stated, in the very first piece of evidence I brought forward with the National Conference of State Legislators.
Okay, but I also proved to you in my speech that easily resizing these images can remove the watermark. So how
Sure.
does your point stand?
Exactly. In the hypothetical, that might be true, but in the status quo, the reason we have those issues is because of an ununified approach towards that policy.
And how is
This
it
bill
ununified?
provides that unified
So how
approach
does this- how
and
does
is a
this
stepping
not
stone
go
for future legislation.
Mohan.
Hey, let me go off Representative Bell.
Absolutely.
When he already told you that that distrust increases with this policy, how do you still stand on the
Well, I completely disagree with Representative Young when he says that. Because as I stated, every single one of his impacts he presents only exists in a world where we do not have a unified approach. This bill gives us that unified approach and is the foundation of the affirmation.
What about the misinformation that Representative Young already refused increase this policy?
That's in the status quo. As I stated, that is due to a ununity inside of this policy.
Questioning block has elapsed. You may have a seat.
I think that should.
Negative speakers, please. Mohan.
I can the chair. My name is Representative Mohan. That's MOHAN for all of my judges. This is my first time speaking today. First time in this legislative session. The inaugural gesture from those above me, I will gladly begin. If I'm being honest, I'm not entirely sure how AI even works. I understand it fundamentally. It reads text, generates responses, and it's kind of similar to human beings intelligence-wise. But we all know that AI doesn't wait for legislation to catch up. This weak restriction doesn't protect us. It just leaves us defenseless. That's why you negate. So far, the entire affirmation has treated this bill like our only choice to catch AI. Here's what they miss. The UC Davis Graduate School finds that AI use is subject of 20% of policies currently in our government. This debate isn't about whether AI should be regulated, it's about whether this policy is the right one to do that. Now, Representative Mishra is right. My biggest problem with this proposal is that it penalizes people using AI for good things and strengthens bad actors for using AI for bad things. This policy will almost certainly limit good usage of AI because it will be made less profitable, usable, and widespread. According to the MIT Technology Review, the purpose of most AI watermarks are to be preventing AI content from being reused or stolen. Under these pretenses, valuable aspects of AI are being destroyed, from small businesses using AI instead of expensive graphic design, or organizations using AI content online. They will always be marred by watermarks because good actors will follow the law, but bad actors never will. That's why I still don't buy the idea that this policy will stop the bad AI. Why? Well, watermarking isn't a guardrail, it's a gap, and the real dangers will slip right past it. The FBI tells us that AI can generate information for cyber crimes, but the watermark doesn't change the rapid information that AI criminals receive at. Now, this bill doesn't even touch those who exploit AI the most. In terms of the people trying to generate content for the purpose of deceit, this approach isn't effective either. Representative Barton thinks that under this policy, we decrease distrust, but that's just wrong, because look to the University of Maryland, which says that distrust increases with watermarks, because bad actors can just remove watermarks, giving false AI credibility. On the flip side, criminals can add false watermarks onto real information, erasing credibility from real sources. You could put a lock on a door, but if the real threat is already inside, it won't make a difference. So no matter the use of AI, watermarks won't effectively stop crime. Bad policy doesn't just fail, it backfires. AI is powerful, but the biggest threat isn't the technology itself. It's what happens when we regulate it without understanding it. That's why you negate.
Speech time 301, speech time 301. Questioners, please. Martin.
So, Representative, in the status quo, is there political violence inside the United States? Sure. Okay. Is there also mass amounts of misinformation by AI in the United States?
Totally, and this
What
policy
does
makes it
litigation do
worse.
to fix that?
The the negation doesn't have to do anything to fix that. The negation has to prove to you that your bill doesn't work. We've already done that because we've shown that under your
Is there a
policy,
current
it actually
unified, is there a current unified approach
it actually
to AI?
increases distrust.
Is there a current unified approach to AI?
No, there's not. But that
Does
doesn't
that have
change
any
this.
impact on disinformation and political violence?
Maybe to some extent, but the real extent is that this bill
Law.
increases
Thank you.
distrust.
Can you please explain to me why these AI watermarks are so awful? Because if someone is knowingly using AI, shouldn't other people also know?
Sure. One reason is that they're unreliable. Representative Young touched on that. The second reason is that they also, AI watermarks aren't necessarily like real. They increase distrust.
What do you mean they're not real?
Right, because criminals can put false
Okay,
watermarks
but
on
people could do that
on
with
their-
any type of thing. People could put false labels
Even-
on anything.
even then, that's why
Question block
watermarks
is elapsed, may I have a seat? Affirmative speakers, please rise. Tuli.
Hi guys, this is Representative Cooley, that is T-U-L-I, T-U-L-I, seated in seat 5, speaking for the first time. Give me a second. Any signs of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 plus 2 equals 5, a motif in George Orwell's 1984. It represents the harms of misrepresentation of data. While that might be fiction, the truth that we can get from it is very, very real. In a world where reality has no objective truth, we create and yield a population without autonomy and a nation without liberty. All I'm asking this Congress to do, restrict the industry, protect our people by passing. Currently, AI development is exploding, and our citizens can't distinguish fact from fiction. But we already know this. Let's quantify this claim to strengthen the F. Misinformation reduces by 30% as per the Digital Information Integrity Project. In a world where the sole delineation between integrity is fallacy is the media, it is increasingly becoming our burden to regulate it, unwavering in the face of economic impacts. The ambiguity is not just academic or in the private sector. It has real, dangerous consequences. The negation argues, and will continue to argue, that passing turns AI startups away from our shores into less regulated international markets. Reject this assumption yet again. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, only about 28% of domestic AI startups operate solely on ethical imperatives. A recent analysis from the Global Innovation Index noted that nations with similarly regulatory standards not only foster trust among consumers, but also more enjoyable, sustainable growth in their tech sector, which counters the neg argument on innovation. If a company intends to mislead, they will not find refuge in the U.S., a market unburdened by protection. If companies with ill intent choose to leave, they can't, because the U.S. is best. The Stanford AI Index report found in 2023 that the U.S. remains the global leader in AI investment, attracting over $47 billion in profit, more than 3 times the next 3 countries. This is not by chance. It's because companies understand they can't operate in economies that aren't the U.S. The bottom line, our great nation has been at the forefront of technological progress, yet progress without responsibility leads us down a very, very dark path. A survey conducted by the National Association of Digital Ethics in 2022 revealed that 68% of misinformation incidents can be traced back to AI. Representative Young and Mohan, technology to detect watermarks doesn't exist. Name me a single policy that requires AI to use watermarks. When you pass, you create the industry that fosters the tech that you want. Flip your impacts. Orwell wrote in 1984 as a prediction of the history, reject dystopia, embrace reality.
Thank you for that speech of 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Speech time, 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Questioners, please rise. That will go to Representative Young.
Is the industry currently at a point in which it can stop misinformation?
No, that's because there's not a single policy that requires watermarks. There's no incentive right now
Okay,
because
so
there's no
how long
demand.
would it take down the road after passing and already mandating these watermarks? Would it take for the technology to be up to the point to reduce
Well,
misinformation?
AI watermarks would become profitable very fast because companies want to capitalize on it.
Right, but how soon would it be until one person is misled because of
The
that?
only way to increase that industry is to pass.
Why couldn't you research it before doing it?
Terabishi.
Great speech, Representative, but I'm wondering, does this bill specify what kind of watermarks would be mandated?
No.
Is that not problematic?
No, because there's a department that's willing to do it.
Is this department, the FCC, or are they AI professionals? Are they specifically have studied AI for years and years?
Yeah, they have background knowledge in the AI sector.
Representative, are there not more than one kind of AI, or more than one kind of watermarks that could be used?
Sure.
Or-
That's
or
why
watermarks.
they're designed to choose the best one.
Questioning block has elapsed. You may have a seat.
I think we-
Negative speakers, please. Go to Varthy.
I'm in the chair. For the judges, my name is Representative Godvarthy, spelled Godvarthi. Can I just get a thumbs up from all my judges just to make sure? Good. Just give me an indication or not. When Vanderbilt students were doing research on AI detection, they put our Constitution that we defend through an AI checker. The result showed that it was a piece that was written by AI. To this day, I'm still baffled on how they had AI all the way back in 1776. But that is exactly why you negate today's legislation. Not because AI existed in 1776, but because of the false positives that it creates. Representative Mark, you come up here with a rather compelling emotional speech on people sleeping easier. But if you truly want the people to sleep easier, you negate. In order to continue debate on this topic, we must answer the most important question we have to address. How do we accurately determine if something should be watermarked or not? The answer is clear: AI detectors. These AI detectors, however, are completely insufficient. Our ability to detect whether a piece of content should be watermarked or not is insufficient and results in numerous false positives. But I'm not here to argue on behalf of small businesses, say this is a costly endeavor. I'm here to argue on the behalf of our people. Because the false positives in AI disproportionately harm non-native English speakers who already face enough struggle in today's world. A 2022 study by the AI Now Institute revealed that 40% of watermarking algorithms disproportionately flagged content from non-English speakers as AI generated. This is only furthered by research from Stanford back in 2023, highlighting that AI language models exhibit significant bias against non-native speakers. Text classifications tasks were up to 3 times higher for non-native English speakers. For these businesses, if we take the Turnitin AI false positive rate of 1%, multiply that by 3, we get 3% false positive rates. Emory University in 2024 tells us that 2,298,000 businesses are owned by a non-native English speaker. For those businesses, producing a mere one piece of content which uses AI generative content is 68,940 pieces. When non-native businesses' creations come up as false positives in AI, they will be disproportionately fined $50,000. But this isn't even the worst point. The fact that Section 2 enables a suspension on businesses with 5 or more infractions put these businesses in the grave, because these repeated false positives will take away their way of livelihood, shutting down their businesses. Do not tell yourself this is just a technical issue. Do not reduce this to just numbers or statistics. This is about the people who will lose everything because of a law that doesn't work. Fail this policy. Thank you.
Speech time 302, speech time 302. I'd like to remind the chamber beforehand, please rise with enough time remaining so I don't make any wrong calls during question blocks. Questioners, please rise. We'll go to Representative Tooley.
I explained detection is awful because there's not a demand. Why doesn't passing implement the demand and increase investment in there?
Because detection is not only awful because of demand itself. Even if we pass today's legislation, there's still a time period.
Yeah.
Later down in the road, we can better technology, but until we better that technology,
Why
we
can't
can't
we
pass
better
it.
it by passing?
Because when we pass today's legislation, even in the short term, we harm our constituents.
Why don't we look at the long term?
Because we can't harm our constituents in it.
Swihart.
Hi, Representative. In the status quo, are our constituents misidentifying AI?
Sure.
Sure, okay, but you just told us that AI misidentifies AI, right?
Yes. Which is why through these AI
So why don't
checkers.
we create a watermark so that our constituents can acknowledge if something's AI?
Because to know whether something is used AI or not, we need to put it through an AI checker.
Yes, an AI checker, AI
Right.
versus
These
AI.
okay. If something is not created by AI,
The question clock has elapsed. You may have a seat. Affirmative speakers, please rise. Dante.
Hi everyone, my name's Representative Aksh Dantal. That last name's spelled D-A-N-T-A-L. I'm just gonna ask for a nod, sign, even a smile. I'll do that. Cool. My mom is a pretty gullible Facebook mom. Last year, she showed me a picture of Pope Francis wrapping a white Balenciaga puffer jacket. She asked me, since when did popes start trading the Vatican for Vogue? I don't blame her. AI detectors probably didn't help out too much. In fact, she should blame me as a legislator because it's our Congress that failed to set a standard. I'm not trying to get yelled at, so please, pass. Because industry-wide FCC standardization increases detection accuracy. But I'll concede this to Representative Godavarty. AI detection isn't working great in the status quo. A study out of the University of Massachusetts, published on October 12th of 2023, states that the success rate for AI detections right now is at a mediocre 52% accuracy. That's not great. Now, Representative Young gets one piece of the problem right. The tech industry has different watermarking techniques from company to company. The Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers states on February 23rd of 2023 that there's 8 different watermarking techniques from 8 different AI companies. But if detection systems